Have you ever come across a function in Kotlin and wondered what it's really for? If you've been learning about the emptyArray function and found yourself puzzled, you're not alone. Today, we're diving into the purpose of emptyArray in Kotlin and why it might be useful. I totally get it. It can be frustrating to learn about a function that seems to do nothing at first glance. Many learners have faced this confusion, especially when they can't assign values or set its size. You're definitely not alone in this. Let's look at the specific question that sparked this discussion. One user asked, "What is the use of emptyArray in Kotlin?" They were curious about its purpose since it doesn't allow value assignments or size adjustments. Sound familiar? Let's explore this together. So what exactly is emptyArray? In Kotlin, emptyArray creates an array with no elements. It's a handy way to initialize an array when you don't have any data to put in it yet. This can be useful in various scenarios, especially when working with generics or when you want to return an empty array from a function. And stick around. At the end of this video, I'll share a practical example of how you can use emptyArray effectively in your Kotlin projects. To understand the use of emptyArray in Kotlin, let's start by discussing what it actually does. The user should know that emptyArray creates an array with no elements. Next, the user might wonder why they would need an empty array. One common use case is when defining a variable that will later hold an array of data, but the data is not yet available. Additionally, the user can use emptyArray to avoid null references. By initializing an array as empty, they can ensure that their code does not encounter null pointer exceptions. Finally, the user can also use emptyArray in conjunction with other functions. For example, they can combine it with functions that filter or transform data, ensuring that the result is always an array. Fun fact: did you know that in programming, an empty array is often used as a placeholder? It's like having an empty box ready for when you need to fill it up later. Now let's look at the answers provided by other users. This user explains that emptyArray is useful when you want to ensure that a function always returns an array, even if the input is null. For example, they suggest using it in a filter operation to remove null values from an input array. If the input is null, emptyArray provides an empty array instead, avoiding null returns. That's it for that answer. Let's take a look at another one. This user explains that emptyArray in Kotlin is similar to Java's empty collection methods. It's useful when you need to pass an empty array to a function without creating a new instance. This approach saves memory by reusing the same empty array instead of creating multiple instances. That's it for that answer. Let's take a look at another one. This user explains that the emptyArray function in Kotlin creates an array with 0 length. While you can't store values or resize it, a common use is to set it as a default value for a property. This avoids dealing with null values later on, allowing safe iteration over the array. Now, let's dive into a different answer from another user. This user explains that the emptyArray function in Kotlin returns an empty array with a size of 0. It doesn't require any parameters, making it useful for assignment operations. You can use it to clear the contents of an existing array, effectively setting its size to 0. They also note that returning an empty array is preferable to returning an array of nulls, as it helps avoid null pointer exceptions in future operations. Here's the takeaway. Using emptyArray can help you avoid null pointer exceptions and make your code cleaner. It's a small but powerful tool in your Kotlin toolkit. And there you have it. Now you know the purpose of emptyArray in Kotlin and how to use it effectively. If you found this video helpful, please hit the subscribe button for more Kotlin tips and tricks. Keep coding, and see you next time.